Welcome, Illinois, to our webinar today titled Women in Gambling. My name is Robby Fuqua. I am going to be your host and your presenter today. So I'm excited to be back in the presenting seat. It looks like we have some familiar faces. I don't see your faces, but looks like we have some familiar names on here. So I've been chatting with some of you, and welcome back and welcome to today's talk. I'd like to thank the Illinois Department of Human Services, Jim Wilkerson, Kelly Gage, Stephanie Frank, and crew for sponsoring our trainings for this great state of Illinois. You know, they also help us manage the Illinois Problem Gambling Helpline, where we provide crisis counseling and referral services to state funded or private practitioners for problem gamblers and their loved ones. Please jot down if you don't already. There's my phone number. You can call me if you have any questions. There's my email as well. And people use that, and I'm fine with that. It may take me a day to get to you, but if you have any questions about any of the trainings or anything at all, or if you want to talk about this training, I'm all ears. So I'd love to hear from you guys. That's my contact information and a little bit about Morneau Chappelle. Now, it looks like there's a lot of familiar faces, as I said, on the class list that I just ran through right before I hit record here. So welcome back, everybody, and we do appreciate you coming online and listening to our trainings. But if you're new, I'm going to give you just a brief introduction because we got a lot of great things to talk about with women and gambling. Just not problem gambling, just women with gambling as well. So, but we service and have serviced the Illinois Problem Gambling Helpline for years. We also do other states as well. I think we're up to 8 states now. We do different trainings for different states. For Illinois, we do a lot, and we are so grateful and happy to be a part of and to partner with the Illinois Department of Human Services on these trainings. But we do all types of trainings: retail training, prevention programming, provider training. We've worked with GameSense and RG information centers. Uh, um, and also we've done research and white papers. So, and we've been doing trainings in Illinois for a long time. We do the Illinois 30-hour core class that sets you up and gets you ready for the Illinois PCGC test. We also do I think we've been doing a monthly webinar or every other month. And we also have a summit that's coming up that I'm about to make an announcement on. But we do quite a bit as far in our responsible gambling department there at Morneau Chappelle. We were formerly BDA, those folks here in private as private practitioners that work in EAP counseling. BDA probably sounds familiar with you, but we joined forces with Morneau Chappelle and now are Morneau Chappelle a few years back. So we are still an EAP company, but our responsible gambling department just continues to grow. There's just 3 of us, but we are happy to again provide these trainings and services for you. Now, real quickly before I make a couple of other announcements. A little bit about myself, if anyone's new. I'm the training coordinator for the responsible gambling department. Ashley Trantham actually runs the department. She's my supervisor, and she was formerly the North Carolina, because we also handled their problem gambling helpline. She was a prevention coordinator there and has been in this industry for several years. We also have a prevention coordinator, Allison Drain, who's going to be speaking at the summit. I'm going to talk more about that here in a second. My background, I'm a career changer. I was in the travel industry for years. I got my master's in social work here in Boston at Boston College. I went on and I changed careers to get into addiction work, but I started off as a crisis clinician in this field. Then when I moved back in an emergency room setting, then when I moved back to Chicago, I started with as a clinical associate with BDA, and then worked my way into the training department and EAP trainings. But again, my true passion is working with folks with addictions. So, I gravitated to the gambling piece and the responsible gambling piece. So I picked up a caseload on our phone counseling program and started doing the trainings. And voila, a few years later, now I'm the training coordinator. I coordinate these services, schedule them, I write curriculum, put together workshops, and schedule all these great training programs. So I love my job and I love working with all of you folks in Illinois. Um, so that's a little bit about my background, and let's get started here. But I do want to make this announcement because this is really a big, exciting deal for us. We're going to be doing an online conference, an online summit, or we're calling it a summit, right? And it's going to be all online starting May 20th and May 21st. And it's going to be 100% virtual. We're so excited to be presenting all of these great speakers. This is just day one, okay? And we're going to start off at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. I believe Stephanie Frank is going to uh, give an opening talk, and then we're going to roll it over to Dan Trillero from the New Jersey Problem Gambling Helpline there. He's going to speak on Back to Basics with Problem Gambling 101. Yes, you're reading that right. It says women in gambling. So think of today as a precursor or women in gambling one. But Jessica Oslander and Allison Drain are going to speak on and further our talk on May the 20th. And they're going to take it a step further. I looked at their slides today, and they have a great talk, and they're going to further what I'm going to be talking on today, and they're going to even get even a little bit more into detail about social gambling and social casino gaming and gaming with women. So it's going to be very interesting. Jessica Oslander is one of our providers in North Carolina. Allison Drain is our prevention coordinator. I work with both of them. They're wonderful speakers. And then at 11:20 sharp, we're going to talk about the world of sports betting. Uh, so that's going to be Dan Trillero, Josh Urkel, Todd Hartwell, and Brianna Dora Shorwall. So some great speakers there. And then at 12:30, we're going to have like a three-tier lunch roundtable discussion with Dan Trillero talking about day trading. And that's the world that Dan comes from. If you guys know Dan's story, he'll probably talk a little bit about it, but he was in the finance world for years, the financial advising world for years, but he'll talk about that. I'll let him share that with you. Ted Hartwell is going to man the booth there for the roundtable on sports betting. And then we're happy to present Bill Johnson and Anita Pandora with the Illinois Council on Problem Gambling. So we're excited to have them on board here too. All these are great speakers. If you've ever heard Dan speak, by the way, he's going to fall face first, but Dan's got so much energy. I can't wait to hear him. He's speaking in 3 different hours here. So, but he's a great speaker and very informed on problem gambling and gambling disorders. So looking forward to all the speakers. Okay, then day 2, May 21st, starting at 9 a.m. sharp, we'll go to 1:30 p.m. We're presenting Cam Adair. He's going to be speaking on video game addiction masterclass. If you've never heard of Cam Adair, Google Cam. Cam is all gaming, and he's got a great story. And he will talk and share with you the great work that he does with gaming and gaming disorder. At 10:10, we have Dr. Deborah Haskins and Victor Ortiz. They're going to be speaking on gambling wellness, frozen or updated, and is it relevant, culturally attuned gambling treatment, prevention, and wellness. We are so excited to have them speak. And if you didn't know, Dr. Debbie Haskins, I've worked with her. She wrote our cultural competency on the Illinois 30-hour core class. So I'm so glad to have her and so glad to have Victor co-presenting with Dr. Haskins. And then finally, we're going to have at 11:55 a.m. sharp, Jody Bechtold. She's going to be speaking on ethics in the digital world of problem gambling. Jody's my board approved clinical consultant. I'm getting my ICGC now. She's so great, so informed, been in the field for a long time, done TED Talks, has a great training program herself there in Pennsylvania. But Debbie, Jody, I've sat in on our ethics on this particular course. It's great. And Jody's a great presenter. So we're really excited to have her. And then Jim Wilkerson's going to close for us after Jody speaks on ethics in the digital world of problem gambling. How about that? How about that for announcements? Heavens, whoo, that's Okay, I burned to 10 minutes. So let's get into women and gambling. So again, we're so excited about this. Listen, go to um, we know the feeling.org to sign up for this summit if you haven't already. You're going to have the flexibility to go in and out, meaning each one of these will be one. And I believe Dr. Haskins is 1.5 CEUs, but you'll be able to go in and out. We'd love to have you the whole time, but if I understand I do what you do for a living. I have a practice here in Boston, although just starting out, but I know you're probably seeing clients or working at your agency. So if you've got to leave and then you can come back and get another CEU, but you have to be on the entire time, just like this time, and answer the poll questions, right? The next webinar, by the way, is June 15th next month. Dr. Rory Reed from UCLA will be speaking on coping strategies in gambling disorder. I've heard Dr. Reed do this live, actually in San Diego at the California conference last year, right before COVID hit. It's great. So I'm looking forward to hearing that. Our next 30-hour core gambling course is actually starting this month, May 24th. And frankly, if you're not in the class now, and if you haven't gotten any updates on any of our upcoming classes in the summer, we're working through our wait list. So please be patient with us. And we're trying to open up some seats for the public, but we're working through and we're looking to schedule more, especially in the fall. Okay. Okay. So here are our learning objectives for the day. Excuse me. And remember, for your CE, you have to be on the whole time, right? And you have to answer the poll questions. Okay. And please use your chat function. I'm going to try to take a look at it. I wish I could open this up to talk to you guys because I know a lot of you on here and I know a lot of you have some great things to say. But unfortunately, in webinar function, we just do the chat. So please chat me. Okay. So today we're going to understand the different characteristics between male and female gamblers. We're going to know 2 EGM strategies. If you remember, EGM is the acronym. We learned that during the 30-hour course that we offer, electronic gambling or gaming machine. So we're going to know about 2 of the strategies that enable distortions or can or potentially can in a problem gambler. We're going to learn 3 areas of growth in the gambling industry that have potentially led to escape gambling amongst females. We're going to learn the definition of telescoping effect, and we're going to understand the role of trauma and escape gambling. Now, for those of you, I've presented a lot of these before in the 30-hour core. I presented these at a conference, I think a couple years ago. And when I put this together a lot of pieces from our library. I added some new slides, and I've even recently modified it a little bit more even. Hopefully, if you're new to this, these are all going to be, hopefully new helpful information. If you're not, hopefully this will be a great review. So let's first start about talking about the number of women gamblers in today's world. Prevalence rates, prevalence numbers, and historically speaking, there's more men than women, okay? 2-to-1 ratio, just generally in the past. Men reportedly 2 to 3 times have higher rates 2 to 3 times higher than that of female gamblers. And women make, again, this is historically make up about a third of the problem gamblers in our community, our society overall. So it's been seen as a male-dominated condition, right? But is the gap, is it getting closer? Okay. Is it changing? Is it shrinking between men and women? Meaning are women gamblers, is this growing? Recent research has said yes, and especially gamblers aged 45 to 64 years old, women actually outnumber men. Now that's just from a study that I believe I resourced a couple years back. um, we're going to see a little bump in this here in a second. I'm going to talk about this because I looked at, and it's going to be a little bit different in Illinois, and I want to hear what you have to say about this too. But what we're saying is historically it's been, a third to 2/3, right? But the gap is shrinking, really with middle age, almost into older adult population, right? With 45 to 64-year-olds. And we're going to talk about why and what this population looks like, the middle age, older adult population female, because these studies have showed, hey, it's actually outnumbering men in this category, right? And it's been shrinking. But I'm going to be completely transparent with you here. Part of my job at Morneau Chappelle and my job serving the Illinois Department of Human Services and the great state of Illinois is I do reporting. I manage the reports for all the states we serve, including Illinois. So I said, what are we looking like, right? What are we looking like with women to men, right? Well, look at these numbers. This is calendar year. Now, calendar year is January to December, right? So if we go back last year during COVID, okay, a third to two-third, that still shows females growing somewhat. But look down at 2019, it was almost halves. Same with 18, same with 17. Okay. So during the year of COVID, we're still in COVID, but we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, right? But during the year of COVID, it looks like males picked it back up. And I will tell you, I just finished the Illinois reports yesterday, or I'm close, waiting on a couple more numbers. That trend looks still true for April. Okay. So recently, males have kind of grown back and made a change, but I still am going to stick to what I'm going to talk about is women and their population somewhat growing. I just want you to keep that in the back of your mind. And maybe you have some theories of maybe are males making a comeback in Illinois? What do you know maybe that I don't? But I'm very interested in hearing. I'm going to check the chats here in a second. But still, look at these numbers. 17, 18, 19 for Illinois, it's almost halves. Now, what I will say about this too, in 20 at 37% is still more than a third, technically, right? Versus two-thirds of men. But think about gambling, and I have to say this too, gambling helplines. Think about helplines in general, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. That females are more apt to reach out for help than us males. We're a little bit more stubborn. Females will pick up that line. They will pick up or I should call it like this: pick up that phone to call right before a male will. Okay. Also, remember this too: our line just doesn't serve those who suffer from problem gambling issues or problem gambling disorder itself. It also serves loved ones of problem gamblers. So these are spouses too. Of course, a male spouse can call in or partner can call in, but you need to think about this. These aren't all the problem gamblers either. This is just people who pick up the phone to call us for help. Okay. But I just thought this was interesting and I wanted to share it with you guys. So that's something to consider with women gamblers. Okay. Not just problem gamblers. I'm talking about just women gamblers and the uptake here that we're seeing, even despite this recent little bump. But women are more apt not only to reach out for help, but I like to say a little bit smarter than us males because they will gamble only with legal options. Not only they're more apt to uh, they're not going to go to an illegal method of gambling, okay, where males will. They look for more legalized gambling. And we know, especially in the state of Illinois, with what's happened with sports gambling now being legalized, 6 new casinos, all these things coming. And lest we forget, there's the most standalone gambling machines out of any state, including Nevada, are in Illinois. So with more legalized gambling, which is the trend in the U.S. and in Illinois, that's going to open up more options that women are going to be more attracted to. Again, males, they could a lot could care less about if it's legal or not. They're going to go to illegal, um, sport bookies, whatever, right? But women are more apt to look for legalized gambling methods. Now, here's the big one, guys: specific gambling venue expansions. Okay. And let's start down. Let's move past casinos. Look at the technological advances and growth for electronic gambling or gaming machines, right? Listen, the odds are the worst with these machines, number one, right? So casinos they like to increase floor space because the machines are so popular. And a lot of these machines are played by escape gamblers, which a lot of them are middle-aged or older adult females. Okay. Go through Rivers, go through any casino and put your clinical lens on and just look around in these larger areas where slot machines or electronic gambling and gaming machines are. The technological advances are incredible. The games are so fun. You forget you're losing money, right? And a lot of the games have these a lot of them have like older themes I've been noticing too, and have noticed like Happy Days and those old shows that, being a 54-year-old male, almost a baby boomer, Gen X, that, you see Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and all these different types of old themes. It's going to, attract older adult middle-aged females. And the games are so much fun. All the technological advances with these EGMs and how escape gambling plays into that. I'm going to talk more about that here in a minute. So, what houses all these great machines in this great industry that's growing? Casinos. Casinos are growing. We know that in Illinois alone. I just said Governor Pritzker approved a couple years ago with the sports gambling thing to improve Illinois' infrastructure. He wanted to legalize sports gambling and also open up 6 more casinos, right? So the casino growth is just crazy. And watch what happens as we move through 2021. As casinos open up. Here in Boston, I can see a casino almost from my front door. It's called Encore. It's tied to the Vegas chain. It's beautiful, beautiful casino. In fact, my folks are coming to see me and my wife in June. And when I lived in Chicago, they would love to go to the casinos in Chicago, but they're thinking about staying at the Encore, but the Encore right now is just open through the weekend. So they can't stay during the whole week. So they're having to look somewhere else. But I'm just telling you the story mainly because it's not fully open yet, right? So as these casinos open, I think we're going to see a lot more. And some are going to stay with the online gambling thing because of COVID, but a lot more are going to return, right? Because there's other things that are tied to the return of folks coming into these casinos. The online gambling growth. Talking about COVID, right? I'm going to show you a couple reports that I put out last year that I did some quick research on that I found are interesting that I've added to this. But the online gambling growth because of COVID, right? And some of them are going to just stay in their pajamas on the couch or in the bed and continue to gamble. A lot are going to go back to the casinos. Then some are going to just kind of utilize a combination of both. But the online gambling growth pre-COVID was just exploding and expanding. And then there's more options for lottery games, scratch offs, and other non strategy type of gambling that a lot of older adult, middle aged females are really attracted to. And it just isn't, there's a lot more than just older adult and middle age. I know females, it attracts a lot of folks, but we're talking about females today, right? Gambling venues marketed specifically to women have been going on pre-COVID as well. They're using colors, they're using themes that attract females now. And they started doing that a lot in Europe using pinks, like Barbie doll like type themes in some of these online gambling games. They're marketing more and more to women. And with women's increased earning power over recent years and the rise of single females raising families without spouses, the females are looking around saying, hey, you know what? I love fantasy football. I'm going to play with the boys. You know what? So with women in society, which I am all for. Those of you who've heard me talk, those of you who've been in the 30-hour course, when I talk about women and gambling and their increased earning power, my wife is the breadwinner in my household, and believe me, I'm fine with it. But with that happening, that changes the landscape too of their preferences. On what look at the poker championships. You see females now there too. So it's increased and kind of changed their preferences in the gambling world too. Now, again, all these things are considerations of why we're seeing some growth in this gap shrinking between just the two genders, male and female, right? That's why. Or not why, I should say, these are some considerations to think about, right, of the increase. And here's an older slide that I put together a couple years ago, and I think this pulled from 2010 numbers, but just look at some of these numbers of the expansion in these areas, right? And think about escape gambling, think about female gamblers, older adult, middle-aged female, casinos, just exploding. We know about that. I've talked about that. The electronic gambling and game machine, and think about the standalone machines in Illinois. We have the most. I still say we. I still feel like I'm living in the in Chicago, and that'll always be a part of me. But right, I mean, the electronic standalone machines are continuing, and now with online gambling in the middle of COVID, getting out of COVID, post-COVID, I think a lot of gamblers are going to still stay inside and gamble, but a lot are going to return, and some are going to kind of have a hybrid preference mix, if you will, right? So what's this traction? Think about this, with females and gambling and casinos and escape gambling. And I'm going to tie a little bit more to this because that's the theme. We're talking about women and gambling. And a lot of women, not all, are what we call escape gamblers, and we'll talk more about that in detail. Now, again, there's some trends. A lot are moving out of that, but think about these three things in a casino. And one of the first things I did when I got into this, when I started working for BDA, and Matt had me start training in North Carolina and doing some other trainings in like Mississippi, I would go into these casinos and I would take mental notes. You guys have probably heard me talk about this, but if you serve this world in this population, you do it too, right? I mean, it's for our information. I saw right away older adult population in casinos. I was going like, man, right? And a lot of them were females. And then I would see when I would go to the EGM section or slot machine section, whatever you want to call it, I would see a lot of female and males, but a lot more females, older adult females, and a lot of them would be in packs and groups and having a great time, right? And then I would see a lot alone, almost hiding. And I say hiding, they wouldn't be. It looked like they were intentionally sitting away from others. Kind of reminded me of a bar, right? Like alcohol use disorder and alcohol. With someone who suffers from alcohol use disorder, drinking a lot of times starts as a social thing, right? And then it moves into an isolating thing. If there's a genetic predisposition for an addiction, alcoholism in their family, something's triggered, you know, and all the moons line up in the wrong way, it moves into an isolating activity, right? Same thing with gambling. We see that as the condition progresses, which it does, as substance addictions do, it becomes more of an isolating activity. It's safe. It's safe. Being in a casino is safe. They can hide, they can be anonymous, right? And they can have their excitement and they can choose when they want to walk around or when not to around. It's just freedom, right? For them in a casino. It's safe, it's isolating, and they can just sit in front of that machine and plug in, right? And escape. So all these can be tied to women and gambling. Now I'm going to go through these two. I just looked at my time. I just put these together last year. I think about this time, but I just kept them in. So what online gambling, of course, started blowing up. I mean, in New Jersey, online gaming revenues, 2019 versus 2020. We know why, because we know what happened last year, right? Pennsylvania earned 24.3 million from summer 2019 in online gaming. So online gaming and gambling just exploded. And then, of course, we saw a fall in the brick and mortar casinos because they had to shut down, right? Easy math. This is easy stuff, right? Look at 61% down in New Jersey, and Pennsylvania declining by 12 million in casino revenues, right? So that's all obvious stuff. But what we found, and what this other article found, was online poker searches, online 400% during COVID. Boom. And sports betting went down. Why? Think about and if you're a sports fan, you know what happened about this time last year. Holy smokes, I'm a sports fan. Sports stopped. But you know what DraftKings and a lot of those websites did, guys, is they started allowing bets on what the outcome of The Bachelor, the outcome of what are the other Survivor, the outcome of all these crazy, reality shows and game shows. They started taking online bets of that. So they didn't miss a beat. I got to say, those guys, their revenue streams probably weren't as hit as hard as what you would think, right? But online casino searches Online casino searches just increased. Look at that, by 3.5 times of online sports betting because of that. Because the casino shut down, sports betting shut down, but people wanted to replace that going to the casino online because it was no longer offered, right? So that was COVID last year. That's a little bit about prevalence numbers with online gambling, casino gambling, all the types of gambling that females and women might be more attracted to. Now, before I get into male versus female, guys, listen, I understand, and I talked about this before I'm even going into these gender differences, but know that women can be action gamblers or women can be poker players, craps players. I know that, but there's a lot of numbers that we cannot turn our head to either. It's just good to know if you're getting into this field. And I will tell you, when I was working the problem gambling helpline in Illinois, I think I had one male. All mine were older adult females, escape gamblers, or they seem to be. They love playing the lottery and scratch offs and the games. So a lot of my clientele was that when I was working the gambling lines. But let's talk about male versus female. And this comes from Natasha Scholl from MIT here in Boston. And she said it's a little bit different. Men gamble more so for a cocaine-like rush. Women for more numbing out. Okay. Men are more attracted to risk taking and competition and status, right? It's more about my skill and what I did. That's why they love sports betting. Women love sports betting too. But with men, it's about, look at what I did, and I'm winning money because of this. It's competitive, it's money driven. But women are more, you know, I just Calgon, take me away. you know, they're more about the numbing out, right? Effect from gambling, and that's kind of where it sets us up to talk more or a little bit more about escape gambling. Now, I'm going to let you guys get in front of your screens here to answer our first poll question. And it asks, is this true or false? I just said this. Female gamblers usually prefer skill-based games, such as poker. Is this true or is this false? Female gamblers usually prefer skill-based games like poker, which is more action gambling, right? Is this true? Women are more attracted to this, or is this false? Boy, thank you guys. We're almost up to 90%. You're not playing today. 87%. How are we doing with time? I want to check the chats. Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Come on, get over 90. Well, I got 1% more, 88%. It's false. It's false. Now, again, women can be, gambling can be, women gamblers can be action gamblers. I know that, but for the most part, a lot are attracted to the more. Wow, we got 78 on the call today. Uh, are more attracted to the escape type of gambling. Okay, let me look at some of these chats. Okay, I got a couple here answering. Who is this? Thomas. True. Sorry, guys. Hold on one second. Some of you, I don't think, are able to answer the chats. Okay. Women have been more often seen loss of employment during the pandemic. Okay. Uh, Perhaps that factors in the drop in female gambling. Yeah, that could be it. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. Good to see you and good to hear you. Yeah, I was wondering, Elizabeth. That's a nice theory. Could be, could be. If and I honestly don't know the number of. Oh yes, and also oh, no, I read the wrong thing. Elizabeth says, also, we have seen a number of women self-soothing with video gambling in response to domestic violence. Good point. That does make sense. They then become aware, more financially dependent on their abusers, which that's going to create that cycle, right? The dependence, the sick dependence, right? and then getting away and escaping through the gambling games, right? Good point, Elizabeth. And Ian says women have been more often seeing the loss of employment during the pandemic. Perhaps that factors into the drop in female gambling. Thank you. Please stop using the term female. I'm sorry, Ashley. um, so they spin off nostalgia, escape. I think that's because of sports betting. Yeah, I thought of that too, Denise. So Denise is saying that maybe there's more men gamblers and maybe that's more into sports betting, and maybe that's part of the reason. Let's see here, who else? Marcia, I think it's due to boredom, empty nest, and retirement probably move women into this arena. Very good. Yep. Empty nesters. I'm going to talk about that. Very good, Ellen. Okay. Yep. Good stuff. Thank you very much. Okay, let's talk about just the prop gambler. Now, I just kept this in too because this is what I spoke on the conference. I've been talking about action gamblers. I've been talking about escape gamblers. And, with action, again, they're predominantly male, young, competitive. That doesn't mean that they can't be women, right? But a lot of times, this is what we see. And there can be shade between the two, right? Escape gamblers, predominantly women or female, non-competitive, short gambling career, later onset, right? And very fast progression. We're going to talk about that. That's one of our learning objectives too. The and that really money issue with an emotional or an escape gambler. It's emotions. Their triggers could be, and this is why the older adult female or older adult women experience this, right? Because Um, y- you know, unfortunately, the older we get, the more we lose, right? Friends, and it can be an empty nest, kids leaving the house, can be a divorce, can be a friend, parents, aunts, uncles, whomever passing away. But this can all trigger an older adult into gambling more. Now, when we talk about escape gamblers again are tied to escaping, numbing out, right? Losing awareness of time, money lost, and people. There's a reason why you go into casinos, there's no clocks or windows a lot of times. Now, I've been in casinos with windows. Maybe you have or haven't. I've spoken in casinos with big windows, but for the most part, they like you to just not even know. Why? I don't think they want to make people sick. And believe me, I've gotten some chats about that. Yeah, they are, but I feel it's just about money, right? And I think one of the consequences of that collateral damage is someone suffering from gambling disorder, right? So you lose awareness of time when there are no clocks and nothing going on, and you get stuck into that gambling zone, right? Now, this particular study showed that 95% of the women who gamble are escape gamblers, slots, videos, poker, lottery, bingo. There's another study I'm going to show that's, I think, shows 73%. Either way, they're saying a majority of almost 3/4 of women are escape gamblers. And again, there's a little bit of a changing tide there because of all the legalized options and women changing in, as I said earlier in the opening. But for the most part, still there's a lot out there that are emotionally triggered and escaping some of those more unsettling feelings, right, of life. Um, they release, the reason why women, want to continue to or win money is because that means they can escape longer and stay plugged into the machine, if you will. So with escape gambling, and this could be males too, but again, we're talking about women today. Is it the machines or is it the person, right? And I talked to you about the zone or the machine zone. Escape gamblers can get there. Also, action gamblers can get in the machine zone. But the zone is where someone who suffers from gambling disorder, that's their goal. They want to get to that point where everything melts away. They don't have to feel anything, but just get into this rhythm of the game. I've heard action gamblers talk about this too. I don't know how action gamblers can escape. Be- that is their escape too. You could look at it that way, but the amount of money that they lose and at the rate they can lose. But when we talk about escape gambling, it's more so about that zone, that machine zone. It's almost like plugging into opiates for someone who suffers from gambling disorder. A lot of acute cases are not just women, but it can be males too, can be men that stay in front of these machines for days on end in diapers. I've talked to security guards and security personnel in casinos. Nasty stories about when they have to pull people from the machine for health reasons, right? So this, although it's rare, it's real, guys. So, but there's some things of how these machines, and I'm going to just go over two quick ones of just some very simple, some simple strategy, programming strategy that keeps people in front of the machines. Now, if you've ever played a slot machine, I mean, even once in your life, you've seen this, right? So this is not by mistake. And what this tells, what um, someone who plays this game, especially someone who suffers from problem gambling issues or gambling disorder itself, they don't think they're missing or they're losing. What their mind tells them is, I'm almost succeeding. I'm almost winning. It's not that I've lost. I'm almost winning. That's what the brain's telling them, right? Men and women alike. But again, today we're talking about women and escape gambling. So this is where the third, you get a couple of sevens or a couple of cherries, which the one is just almost there. And that ignites the mind to say, man, I almost won. I'm going to play again. It produces the same effect with the dopamine transmitting pathways, anticipation reward as perhaps a win. But I think, I'm no doctor, but I think they're going to hit that button more again, more so than a win because they think they're that much closer to a win. I almost succeeded. Not that I lost, I almost succeeded, right? This is called the near miss effect, right? And think about someone who's suffering from all the things that happen to someone who is experiencing pathology, who has a genetic predisposition to a behavioral addiction like this one. This is what their mind is going to be telling them when they see this on their 27th hour of playing, right? They're going to continue. The other thing is, and I talked about this, and I talk about this in the class, if you put in a credit or you put in $1 into a machine and it kicks out 50 cents, did you win? And I always like to listen for what people say. You got to think about it. Think of actually experiencing that. No, you just lost 50 cents, right? Now, you couple that with bells and whistles and sounds and sirens going off, like you did win. It's doing everything telling you that it won, except for saying you won. So it might kick out 50 cents, right? Sirens might be going, bells and whistles going as if you won, right? So what do you think that's going to tell the mind of the problem gambler? What it's going to spit out dopamine. I want to play again. Hey, you just lost. you know, you just lost, but it's telling you you won. Okay. And someone who's not conscious of this, mixed with just another simple one like the near miss effect, these are just two very simple strategies that this industry employs through these machines, right? And this is a way to keep folks in front of the machines longer. Again, the goal from these um, programmers are to keep people in front of the machine as long as possible, because as long as they're in front of the machine, they're just putting in money, right? So that's the reason. Okay, are you guys ready for the second poll question? I got a couple of questions too. I'll look at the questions here when I after I launch these polls. Okay, let's get into my next poll. Stop share results. Hold on one second. Here we are. I've been presenting so long, I forgot how to do it. Okay, all right. All of the following are characteristics of an escape gambler except what? Okay, all these fit in except for one, right? Which one doesn't belong? Wasn't that Sesame Street? Okay, all of these are escape gamblers except, is it they're non-competitive? Mark A if you think it is. Is it B, they prefer games of chance? Is it C, they're addicted to adrenaline rush? Or is it D, they're predominantly female or women? Or is it E, all of the above are true? All of the following are characteristics of an escape gambler except, is it A, that they're non-competitive? Is it B, they prefer games of chance? Is it C, is this a characteristic of an escape gambler? They love the adrenaline rush, hint, hint. Or D, predominantly female, or E, all the above are true. 76 have voted. 84%. Come on, guys. Get over 90. 88%. Okay, I've got 15 minutes. I got to move. Okay. It's C. They're not addicted to the adrenaline rush, right, guys? Okay, here's the, well, can you see the results? Not sure. Okay, let me check the chat real quick. Thomas, Angela. Hold on one second. Everybody is answering these via. I'm trying to do this. Karen. Okay. False. Karen. Maybe that's two. Okay. Their perception is their reality. I agree, Ellen. Yes. Okay. And let me look at the, well, maybe I'll get to the questions here and let me get through some of this. Okay. I had a video, but I don't think I'm going to be able to play it. Okay. Okay. So that's an older video. If I can play it near the end, I will. And I played this during the core gambling. I like it. So, but we're running out of time. Okay. So more facts about women and gambling. It's a faster progression. Um, with a later onset, meaning it happens later in life and it happens real quick. And that is called, I'm just going to flip to it, the telescope effect. And in fact, there's been studies that have shown right here the time between the onset of gambling and the development of problems is shorter in women than men, 9 years and versus 13 with men, respectively. I remember when I put this slide together a year or two ago, there was another study that it showed twice as fast. So for some reason, it happens faster with women, right? And a lot of times, I told you some reasons, excuse me, some reasons why women start a little bit later. It's a lot of emotional triggers. Not that, they just kind of pick up gambling, and then they say, hey, man, this is fun. This kind of takes me away. And it progresses just as other behavioral addictions might progress or a substance addiction. It's very similar and it is progressive in nature, right? But it progresses very fast with women when compared to the other, just the male gender, right? Um, More prevalent among minority groups with women in gambling. Again, I've talked about this. They prefer less competitive games. I've told you about they're more women are a little bit smarter than us men. They look for more legalized options. Low bets and longer plays because they want to sit in front of that machine longer and escape, right? Decreased debt loads and could be empty nest situations. There's higher rates of mood disorders with women in gambling, higher rates of physical health problems. Hey, gambling is not good for your physical health, guys. I mean, think about, especially with gambling disorder, because of the sleeplessness, uh, the um, the ups and downs on your cardiovascular system. Think about it. A day or two just sitting. Now, a lot of the escape gamblers may not have that as much, but a lot of times they're still losing because the worst odds are on these EGMs, slot machines. So, yeah. And someone Elizabeth brought up the domestic violence thing, the IPV, which could be a result of why we're seeing some of the numbers we're seeing. But a lot of women gamblers versus 10% of non-gamblers reported this. And these numbers, by the way, went up during COVID. Think about it during COVID because the casinos closed and it closed in couples with their families with no gambling outlets. So a lot of them went to online gambling, but a lot of them, their irritability was unfortunately, brought out through IPV. more likely to have family history of substance use disorder, like alcohol use disorder. And there's higher incidences of childhood trauma. I'm going to show you a study here in a second on that. Okay, we're at 149. I'm going to wait on that last poll question. Okay, gambling and trauma, guys. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about here. And reasons why women gamble to escape. We've been talking about all these, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about how trauma can be tied to women in gambling. And this was a study back in 2016, not too bad, right? For gambling studies, anyways. And the purpose of the study was to investigate, interpret, and analyze the lived experiences of women who reported having a history of trauma, right? And we're going to look at this, and there's going to be five themes, excuse me, that were developed in this study. And researchers interviewed females with gambling issues. I'm sorry, the study was in 2015, so they're using pathological gambling. It's disordered gambling, and five themes came across that I'm going to talk about real quickly here. The not good enough self, the seduction and intoxication, seeking a sanctuary, a trauma that binds that ties the bind, and gambling becomes the trauma. Okay. I have five examples here. And the first is the not good enough self. And maybe I've got folks on here, maybe I have some private practitioners or folks who work in agencies that serve not only, maybe women, but males or men who suffer from trauma. So I'm not an expert to speak on trauma, but from the study, it states that trauma affects identity development and it stops uh, their development because of some extreme trauma that happened to them perhaps when they were young. So, a lot can draw on a persona that they feel from gambling, right? In the box here, the purple box, it says the escape is what persons suffering from gambling addiction are out to achieve, the escape from traumatic memories or traumatic realities that would unfold in our participants' lives prior to when the compulsion to gamble would begin. So this person talking about the identity development stopping, this person talks about it being glamorous. You feel like you're somebody else, so they can kind of pick up from a persona from all that excitement and all that dopamine driven when they walk into a casino, right? So, that not good enough self, that identity of development that's altered by the trauma, perhaps can be picked up and fed off of that exciting feeling they have in casinos or when gambling. Seduction and intoxication. Oftentimes, as I said, this starts off as a social type of activity and then moves to a isolating activity, just like someone who suffers from alcohol use disorder. It starts off as fun with friends, but then it can end in a very different way, right? And look at this person here, what her quote was. Looking at the strip, of course, you throw in a few coins, ding, 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 and out comes the quarters. I enjoyed it. It had fun. So they just start perhaps gambling as they would a substance socially with a traumatic background. And again, this was just having perhaps fun with friends. It could have started out that way, and then it can of course progress into what? Oblivion, right? The focus becomes to numb out and forget. Isolating experience. Again, they're looking to get into that mode, that machine zone that the one slide talked about. This particular person in the study had a comorbid condition of substance use disorder or opiate dependence. And she says it was crazy. I lost a lot of money. It felt like I was using heroin again, exactly the same. So with her, she said it almost felt the same to her. Now, comorbid conditions can be complicated with substance addictions and mood disorders. A lot of studies show there's a lot of that is common and a lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean everybody either, right? So, but with this particular case, it made her feel almost the same, right? So, and then trauma that ties the bind, right? Individual trauma is unique for each individual, and the gambling kind of personalizes into that trauma, right? Connects to it. This inability could be interpreted as parts of the psyche which have been frozen in time. We talked about personality and self being altered, right? Identity being altered, leaving the individual stuck in that moment of trauma. Through the abuse I've been through, from this quote from one of the subjects that were studied, She said she would cling, and she would cling on to things very quick, and had, her terminology was an addictive personality. But that trauma can be directly connected to, or the gambling can be connected to that trauma, which soothes that horrible memory, that horrible voice, that horrible experience that oftentimes wakes up folks who suffer from traumatic experiences. And finally, gambling can become the trauma, right? What do we mean by that? Well, read this quote. This person lost 50,000. I'd say at least it's in the back of my mind all the time. I think these amounts can be traumatic. I'm working with a sports gambler now. We haven't even gotten to the point to where we have gotten to the point which, how much is it, and that's strategic on my part and piece. I feel, and a lot have remorse. A lot of folks on the amount that they have are embarrassed by it and feel shame by it. I get that, and it can all be mixed up, but it can be traumatic too. Some don't even want to think about that number. They don't want to think about their kids' college fund that they've worked 17 years for. They don't want to, because it's trauma. They're not ready to feel it yet. So this trauma, the amount that they spend on gambling, can add to the already traumatic experience that they had earlier in life, either if it's abuse or some type of violence or some type of accident, whatever the flavor of violence that happened. This can add to it, right? So the actual amount of money can add to the trauma, and you'll have more to chip away at, frankly. So I like that study. That's a great study. Let's go back and answer our last poll question. Let me see my time. Oh man, it's like riding a bike, folks. Okay, I hope. Which are strategies or features of EGMs intended to prolong play amongst gamblers? Let me launch this, and then we'll summarize. Stop share results. Okay, number 3. Which of these are strategies of electronic gambling or game machines, EGMs, that are intended to prolong play amongst players that I've talked about today? Is it A, the near miss effect? Is it B, particular sound patterns or codes that the machine puts out? Is it C, losses disguised as wins? Is it D, both just A and C? Or is it E, none of these? Which of these are strategies or features of electronic gambling or gaming machines that are intended to prolong play amongst gamblers? Is it A, the near miss effect? Is it B, particular codes or sound patterns? Is it C, losses disguised as wins? Is it D, both A and C? Or is it E, none of them? Last poll question. 3 minutes. 78%. Come on, let's get over 80. 2 minutes. Polling is about to close. 88%. That's good. Okay, guys. That was kind of a trick question. So it's actually C, A, and C. Yeah, losses, skies, wins, near miss effects, right? Okay, so let me make note of this. Okay, so I'm going to look at a couple of your questions. I can stay on a little later, guys. I wish I could open it up so I could hear you. Karen, Angela. Let me. Okay, let me get these names. So, do you have any other questions? Hold on, guys. Karen Kinsman. I'm trying to get all this. Angela Slate. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. And let's go to this last slide here. So I want to appreciate, I want to thank everybody for coming on today, guys. Let me look at some questions. Fabulous background on numbers graphs. Will you be emailing out PowerPoints? You guys, you have my email, right? I can put it on the chat again. I believe the slides are on weknowthefeeling.org. Check there. You can always check with me. You can, of course, have the slides. We also record this. So I believe this is on the website as well, weknowthefeeling.org. Or you can email me. I'll get it to you. Everything seems to be working fine, though, as same anonymous attendee, upper L corner monitors recording on yet. I don't know what that is. Okay, and Don, if I can attend 1 or 2 days, can I still attend the partial CEU credit? Yeah, guys, with the summit you can. You can kind of come and go. We wanted to make it flexible for you. Yep. And we hope to see everybody. Oh, thank you, guys. I hope to see everybody on. I think I'm going to be just hosting a couple of these of the sessions. So, but I'm looking forward to hearing Dan and Jody and Debbie and Victor and everybody who's talking. Jessica, Allison. It's going to be a great convention conference, online conference. We're excited. It's the first one, to my knowledge, that we've done online, 100% virtual. And I want to put out the word to Ashley, my supervisor. Look, this isn't kissing up. She's really worked hard and put together a great summit. So thanks to Ashley. And I look forward to hosting what sessions I'm going to be able to host. So we look forward to hearing from you guys then. I've kept you long enough. We're 1 minute after, unless no one has any other questions. Oh, there's 15 more. Let me take a look here. You guys can stay on with me, or if you have any clients, of course, get to them. You bet. Oh, a bunch of thank yous. Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's good to see everybody too. Everybody's names here. There's Kelly. Hey, Kelly, thank you. Ken, how are you? Ellen, good to see you as always. Skip, Elizabeth, thank you for being on. It's great to hear, and you've got great input as well. Everybody has. So listen, guys, I hope the weather's great in Illinois like it is here in Boston today. Enjoy your day, enjoy your rest of the week, and I hope to see you at the summit. Okay? Have a great day.